CC Sports Rap Podcast right here on Facebook. The group page, once again, Sports Rap Podcast. You know where it is. You know how to find it. So get over there and find it. Before we talk a little bit about the CC Sebathia article, I wanted to touch on, and hopefully we'll get to the CC Sebathia article. But nonetheless, if we don't get to the CC Sebathia article, I will definitely post a link, and you can read it at your own leisure.
Right.
So, excuse me. I mentioned to you the issue of Barkevious, Mingo, and these child sex allegations. He's played for a number of teams in the NFL, and he was most recently with the Atlanta Falcons, who have since released him due to these alleged charges. So the situation plays out that he has initially turned himself in on his own accord after talking to his attorney, and he was released from custody after he posted a $25,000 bond. The situation played out where he was hosting a family friend who brought another friend, and I'm not going to go into graphic details, but I have to paint the picture for you so you understand how these charges came about. He was with these teenage boys. He takes them on a shopping spree. They went to go-kart in Arlington, go-kart arena in Arlington near Dallas. They went to Six Flags, and they went on a shopping spree where Barkevious paid for this young man's stuff. He got shorts and shoes and t-shirts and stuff from Nike.com. They were delivered to the friend of the family, not directly to this young man. But it goes on to say that back in 2019, over the 4th of July weekend, there were documents where this particular young man fell asleep, but he was awakened sometime early in the morning to Mr. Mingo being in the bed with him. It pursued to going into the young man having his underwear being pulled at by Mr. Mingo, and that the young Mr. Mingo used a lotion that made the victim's skin burn, and he allegedly rubbed his penis up and down in between the victim's derriere. Very, very disturbing for me, in my opinion. These charges in Texas are a second-degree felony with a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison under the Texas state law. Very, very disturbing to me, again, like I just said, because it reads and it's portrayed as this particular professional athlete taking advantage of this young man who used his financial ability and his alleged or so-called kindness to have ulterior motives with this young man. These are the types of things that can really, really become detrimental to this young man's future, to his growth and his progression into manhood. We talked about the issues with Bo Schembechler in Michigan, and we also had, remember in the past, the Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky issues, and we see how these particular victims of those two situations are now very grown men and are still having issues with those situations. Just recently now being able to discuss those issues when for long periods of time they didn't know how to express it or get it out, and they dealt with it, and it has caused issues within themselves, and or if they have families, it's called issues there.
Right.
So it could be very challenging for this young man and very scary for this young man. Again, it could cause some serious problems, some serious issues for this young man.
Right.
I don't get that type of situation. Like I said, that type of situation is very disturbing to me, because it's a grown man, and on top of that, a professional athlete, and a young man who naturally has an advantage. One, being a professional athlete, and then two, being an adult, versus a child. So for me, I keep saying it, it's very disturbing. I just don't get it. I have no issues with the, if you will, and this may not be, and I'm not comparing this to it, but I have no issues with the LGBTQ community. I know some people who are in that community, but it's they're within their own right, of course,
right,
and they stay within their notion or whatever, for lack of a better word, and it's adults, consenting adults.
Right.
In this particular matter, there was no consent, and that's where I have a problem. You have taken advantage of this young man, and apparently, from what I read, the young man was not a willing participant.
How old was he?
The young man was 17 years old, 17. So he wasn't a willing participant.
Right.
And he's already been challenged, where at one part in the article it said he was so scared, it struck him as odd, and he was scared, and then he just faked sleep, where he was put in a position where he didn't know what to do, didn't know how to react. So he just went with an instinct, and he faked sleep, which didn't help the matter in any way.
Disgusting, man. It's disgusting.
So I of course, Mingo's defense is going to say that these allegations are false, and they're going to try and find loopholes or whatever. But the story itself is really, really disturbing and disgusting.
It is.
Because again, you have taken full advantage of this young man. You showered this young man with gifts, having him believe that you had a genuine kindness of heart for him, being a friend, and it makes it even worse. It's a friend of a family member. And that makes it even worse. But I don't understand it. I don't think I ever will. Like I said, you fully took advantage of this particular young man, and it makes no sense. Like, I don't see how you get any pleasure or any satisfaction from that. And Mr. Mingo being an African American man, I mean, our communities are already at a crisis as it is, yes, with our African American males, and African American males having that father figure, so to speak, that they can look up to, and this just makes things even worse.
Put a bad stain on it.
It just, it just increases that black eye, that's already on us, and something needs to be done about it. Real quick, I'm sorry. Shout out to Ivan Robinson, who was tuned in earlier. I didn't get a chance to say what's up to you. So Mighty Mouse, my guy, my friend, what's going on? Glad you are tuned in and always are tuned in. I definitely appreciate the support. So, I mean, there's not really much to say. Again, I will definitely stay in tune and keep my ears to the story. And as I get information, as I always do, I will definitely bring this information back to you as I get it. And again, like I said, it just increases the blemishes that are put on African American males, especially, like you said, with the struggle to have enough positive male role models who knows how or what effect it will have on this young man dealing with older African American males or down the line.
Right, that's enough for life.
It may, it's going to have an impact on him. It's just a matter
15,
of
20 years,
it's just a matter of how he can deal with it, and if he gets the proper help that he needs, and if things are done. And I mean that on both sides. I think with this kind of situation, Mr. Mingo also needs to have some issues addressed and have some help, some counseling to, well, he's out on bond, so you know, he has some issues that will need to be discussed and need to be handled, and see how, you know, he can get past that and maybe make a change for the better. So again, we'll see what happens with that. So I came across an article, and it talked about, and it was Sebathia, and it basically talked about the struggles that are placed upon black athletes, more particularly in Major League Baseball. As if Major League Baseball needed any other light shed on them. Some of the issues that were brought up in this article were the fact that the African American athletes and the other minorities, the Hispanics or the Latino athletes, were usually separate. Sebathia says that a lot of times, or the majority of the time, the Latinos strictly dealt with each other off the field and outside of the locker room, and so did, or they hung with the African American players. And this just goes to show that, and it just reiterates the things that we've said on this show before, where we noticed and have noticed that there is still racism in sports. There will be some people that will say, or try to say that, you know, you're using that card or whatever, but I don't use that card unless it's absolutely necessary or it's absolutely present. And at this particular point, some of the things that Sebathia pointed out, and some of the things that we have seen just in general, have reiterated those facts and those points that we make about racism in sports. Some of the things, Sebathia says that he was at a dinner at one time with these players, and they started talking about political issues, and then it immediately went into a racial conversation. He said he immediately left the room, but then he went back and he just made a statement and a demand that we can come out and have dinner, but this particular conversation on politics goes so many different ways, and it can go bad very quickly and very often, that we should make a pact, and we will make a pact right now. I'm making a pact that we don't talk about politics at this particular types of dinners and meetings, which I think was a great thing. It says, some of the things he said is it's a dance that all blacks Americans have done for a long time, and they learn how to be non-confrontational and non-threatening, just so that we can go about our lives and not be in danger. So I somewhat agree with that, and I'm sure a lot of other African Americans do, because there are many times when some of us either hold our tongue or don't say exactly some of the things that we want to say, because we know after the fact what kind of backlash will come with it. He also says that in those types of locker rooms, he said a lot of times you don't say things because you want to feel like you're part of the team, not an outcast and not the angry black guy, which is always, or the majority of the time, it seems like that's the point when minorities try to express themselves, and the fear or the combativeness of some white Americans, when they feel like deep down inside this particular person is right, but I'm not going to own up to my downfalls, so I'm going to push it back on them and make them seem like the angry black guy or whatever, and have them be the centerpiece of the issue and make it look like it's them. One of the quotes that he had in this article, and I quote, says, "When you're black in baseball, if you don't play their game, then they can run you out whenever you're not producing." He says he would have been done in 2014 or 15, but he got an extra 5 years by playing the game, being thought of as a good guy in the clubhouse, and all most of us really want to do is play baseball. So I think, end quote again. So I think basically what he's saying is he was one that voiced his opinion quite often, but he learned over the long period of time, and in particularly where he said he could have been out in 2014, 2015, that I've got to play their game, because if I don't, they have the power at that particular moment to end everything for me. Everything I worked for, they can just take it away from me and lay blame on me being the quote unquote angry black guy. So, you know, CC went on to have a very, very prosperous career, excuse me, in Major League Baseball. But his whole point is,
top 5 pitcher.
Yeah, his whole point in this article, I believe, is saying that there's a lot of pressure on the black athletes, like it says, to play baseball the white way. Where for a long time baseball was predominantly white, and we all know the history.
The 40s and 50s, yeah.
And we see in a lot of places, or in a lot of times, that's still going on right now.
A lot of racism.
He said at one point, he also said at one point in this article, there were 4 or 5 black guys on the team, and they were almost considered as just token guys just because. He said that's another form of the pressure that they have. Like, they can hold that over your head. Like, you only here because we have to have this, and you have to have some diversity or whatever.
It's 70% of baseball are Dominican and Spanish now.
Yeah. So it's been a change. It's been a change, but
it came a long way.
But it does still, for them, he's saying that it still doesn't feel that way. Because of the background and the history.
The history of the game.
Of the game.
Yeah, it's a lot of Dominican.
So, you know, like you said, he says also, and I quote, "Right now, this sport is not for us, and we know that," end quote. So basically, you know, he's saying that we have made improvements, we have made strides, but what we know from the past is still prevalent in today's game, and it's a lot of pressure on these minority athletes to play the game their way or risk their hard work and their financial situation being dramatically changed, you know, at the blink of an eye. 12:45, folks. We are going to end there.
Great show.
I think we gave you some great information today, as always, you know, to kick off your week. It's going to be a hot one again today.
Yes, it is.
Always when it's hot like this, there's a potential, so there is some chance of afternoon thunderstorms and some rain. So drink plenty of water, stay hydrated, stay cool.
AC.
Check on your elderly if you need to. Check on your kids. Make sure they are staying hydrated and in cool places. You know, we'll be with you all week on social media.
Yes, sir.
Definitely be sure you're tuned in next week. Got some guests coming in the building next week. And you know how I do. I'm not going to tell you who they are right now, but you got to follow like you do. And you'll find out soon enough when I feel the need for you to find out. So again, that information, just know that there is some guests coming in next week. The pertinent information will be on an as needed basis. When I say that, I mean I will give it to you as the time gets closer, and then you'll know who'll be here when they are here. I think next week the guests, they're going to be it's going to be a pretty good a really good time. There are a lot of things that can be covered that will be discussed. But as always, Monday morning starting off your week, now Monday afternoon, be great on purpose as I always like to say, thank you all that have tuned in. Thank you for tuning in and being consistent supporters here live with us and on social media. You know where to find me at sportsrap_D on Instagram and Twitter. Sportsrapradio.com is the website. The audio can be heard on iHeart, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. You know, just search Sports Rap Podcast and the information will come up. You can get anything that you missed live there.
Right.
Also, YouTube, Sports Rap TV, videos will go up later this week of today's show, just like I had videos of last week's show up. So get over there and check that out. Right. Also, when you get there, make sure you like the videos that you like and subscribe to the channel and click that bell so you'll know and be alerted when new video is posted. As always, we are here on Heat 100 Radio. Shout outs to Simply Monica, Larry Lair, Nina Capone, Rock the Barber, Has Got Jokes, who comes in on Fridays with the Morning Rush, that hold down that Morning Rush show. And shout outs to them for the July 4th event that was nothing short of a movie at Lou and Choose, the all new Lou and Choose state property for the Made in Philly, the beginning of that series. The next event for that series, the next installment of that series, I believe it's August 7th, but you can get over to Simply Monica 72 on social media and find the definite date. But when I get the definite date, I'm pretty sure that's the date. So August the 7th, the next one goes down. So just be in tune with that. Make sure you are tuned in to Heat 100 Radio, the Sports Rap Show podcast, the Morning Rush, so you can get all the information on how you can get your tickets and who will be performing at that next installment. Frank?
You can catch me on Facebook, or 2418 Franklin Milligan on Instagram.
All right, folks, and thanks again. Like we said, Heat100Radio.com, Sports Rap Podcast, the group page on Facebook, and you know what it is. Make sure you are tuned in with us or with them all week on social media and right back here each and every Monday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Enjoy your Monday and the rest of your week. We will see you next week live with our guests and all week on social media. Thanks for your support. We'll talk to you soon.